All right, we are live. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Let's see. Okay. Ooh, the lighting is... There we go. Hey, Sage. Alrighty. Hey, guys. Welcome back to Conversations with Allieetoile. Today is already episode 19. This is crazy. And a very special guest I have joining us today is the lovely Sage Humphries from Boston Ballet. Let's get her on here. Let's see. Hi, Sage. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Conversations with Allieetoile.
Thank you.
I'm so happy to have you be part of this. Oh my goodness, I'm very excited. Well, first of all, how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good. I mean,
This
crazy
was a great excuse
times.
to dress up.
Oh, yeah, nice. Well, anyway, I want to give you a couple moments, and as more and more people are joining us, I want to pass the mic to you and allow you to, introduce yourself, talk a little bit about who you are, what you do, where you are, all that good stuff.
Okay, sure. Well, hi everyone. I'm Sage. As Allie just said, I am currently based in Boston, Massachusetts because I am a dancer with Boston Ballet, and I have been for the past, I'm going on my 5th year. This next season will be my 5th season. So it feels like a long time for me. I'm from California, and I grew up training there. I was right next to LA, so I also grew up around a lot of acting and modeling and the music industry. So all of that's kind of just a part of who I am. I still write songs, I play the piano, and I love singing. And yeah, I love just basically the arts in general. So I'm a ballet dancer, but I also like to collaborate with different people and do a lot of different things. So my journey's taken me a lot of places around the world and different cities that I've lived in. And
For
yeah,
sure.
it's been crazy, but I'm here in Boston. I'm a little bit outside of Boston because I've lived in cities for a long time, and I kind of got a little bit tired of living in the city. So now I live in suburbia, which is a little more homey for me personally. But yeah, what a crazy time to be alive.
It is. I mean, and honestly, that's an understatement. I mean, we look at what's going on in the world right now, and it's just the only way I can sum it up is it feels like I'm waking up and literally watching a movie every day. And
Yeah.
it's unreal. I'm hoping that there is an end in sight. I'm hoping that this is all just going to, tomorrow we're going to wake up and someone's going to found a vaccination or a cure or something, and which I know that day is coming. I just hope it comes sooner rather than later. And you know, our health is really the only thing we can ask for at this time. So I hope that you look well, and I hope that you and your loved ones are okay as well.
Yeah, they are, thankfully. I feel very blessed that they are all safe and secure right now and
Good,
quarantining
good.
in
Well,
California. So
anyway, there's so many conversation topics that I have for us today. And of course, for those who are live watching right now, please feel free to send any questions or comments in the comment section below, and we will do our very best to get all of you on there. So let's jump right in. I want to start, obviously, with, more ballet type things, I guess. But sure, I mean, it goes without saying that this is a time that nobody really asked for. Obviously, we're not able to dance to our full capacity, so it's hard because taking time off in an already short career is difficult. So how have you been coping mentally and physically getting through this time? Because it's not something that's like an injury where we have to take the time off and it's conscious. This is, again, it's a situational thing that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis.
I actually, it's interesting that you brought up this isn't like an injury, because I think to cope with all of the stresses and the fact that I'm not in the studio every day, I've almost been treating it like an injury. I've been treating this time as if I was forced to stop dancing. And some of the things that you do when you're injured, I was injured 2 years ago. I had a pretty bad stress reaction in my back, and I had to take a couple months off. And the most important thing was that you keep moving, you keep doing your exercises, you every day kind of evaluate where you're at and what your body needs. And I've been kind of treating it like that. Like it's not something that I wanted, but it's something that I've been dealt. And now every day I'm going to do the things that I know will help to improve my technique and to keep me strong, even though I'm not in the studio for 5-6 hours a day. There's
Definitely,
still so much
yeah.
that we can be doing at home. And also, kind of a really good piece of advice that my physical therapist gave to me when I was actually injured was I asked her, it was around Thanksgiving time, and I was going home to be with my family. And I said, well, what am I going to do? You know, I'm not going to be in the studio, and it's going to be a couple weeks. And she's like, you rest and you enjoy yourself. And I was like, really? It's that simple? I don't
Sure.
understand that. That doesn't like coincide with the way that my brain functions. I'm not used to resting and enjoying myself. I'm used to pushing and kind of like battling through some, hard days and tired, and I'm so used to accomplishing something every single day. So we can
Absolutely.
still accomplish things as dancers, and in this time there's still so much that can be accomplished, but what we're focused on changes. So it might not be, learning choreography or performing choreography. Maybe it's just focusing on finding balance. I've noticed, at least in my training, your right side and left side are very different. And that's something that I've always struggled with, is just finding like the equilibrium between the
Mm-hmm.
two, and like
Yeah.
really getting like good balance. So this is a great opportunity to like reestablish balance. If there's a weaker side with something, you can work on it more. You have endless time throughout the day to take time on exercises you might just blow through because you're trying to warm up.
Yeah.
Instead, you can find deeper ways to work. So that's what I've been doing.
No, that's amazing. I think that's a great way to look at things too, because if it goes without saying, we are limited to what we really can do on a day-to-day basis. Obviously, as much as I'd love to just, full out a variation right now, that's not the wisest thing to do on tile floor, especially not on point. I mean, for those who have the courage to do that, I mean,
All power to you.
all power to you. But for me, that's something that I don't feel is going to be beneficial at this time. So,
What you
but you
can do.
can bet, I mean, when I get back into the studio, that's going to be
Yeah,
that's
running.
going to be what I want to do. Yeah, I mean, it's hard, but it's important that I want to point out the key word that you used in that whole entire thing. The takeaway is balance. And not just in the sense of a technical, like balancing ballet, balance in your life.
Yes.
This is a great moment to step back. And this is something that I've been identifying with all of my guest speakers on here. Of course, we're Allie the ballerina, Sage the ballerina, and that's a major part of our identity. And on social media and in our profession, that's often how people identify us, and that's often how people know us as being this ballet dancer. But there's a whole entirely other side of that, where in order to be Allie the ballerina and Sage the ballerina, we have to be Allie the person, Sage the person. And finding that balance between your career and your life is something that isn't always put on a priority, because we're very dedicated people. I think most ballet dancers are wired that way, where they just dive into the work, and it's disciplined and it's very regimented, and we're used to that way of life, because it is like a lifestyle almost. And we sometimes neglect that who are we when we're not dancing part.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely important to highlight that, I think, especially for young dancers, because the longer that I've been in ballet, the longer that I've been doing this, you see that in order to progress as an artist, it takes more life experience and more life learning moments to contribute to that overall picture. So I want to ask you a few questions more on that. And of course, I've got a few people. I've got my computer here, and the screen is just like questions galore. So basically, some of those things are, obviously, this is coming from a student. They're asking, I want to be my own artist, but I don't know how to do that? Or how do you find those qualities within yourself to hold on to and use as your strength?
Well, that is an incredibly loaded question
It
because
is. It's a very loaded question.
there's so many aspects to being an artist, and everyone wants to be individual. And so often in a professional setting, especially if you're in the core, you know this, like you have to find a way to be individual, but also kind of blend in. We spend so much of our time training as young students, learning solos and variations and competing them and getting this like individual experience. And then you go into professional world and suddenly you're forced to kind of like mold into what this company,
For sure.
what their vision is. So for me, ways that I've found to be an individual is take time alone in the studio. Take time when no one else is there, when no one is watching, whether it is rehearsing a variation, or for me, I really like just improving. I like to find ways that my body likes to move. It helps me learn about myself more.
Yeah.
So that's been a really cool way that I've learned, like, okay, so I really like things that like connect and flow and like move, like bounce off of energies. And I don't know, I found out a lot about the type of dancer I am, and choreographing is another way that I found out about the type of dancer I am, because you often choreograph in the style that you can, that is most comfortable for you.
Definitely.
So that's been really interesting. That whole choreographic experience has just opened my mind so much to who I am as a dancer. It's shed a lot of light on that for me. And I think also just pulling on your own life experiences, because you don't have to have a sob story to pull from to find emotion. We all experience basic emotion. We all experience love. We all experience sadness and grief and heartbreak. And those all might take different forms for different people.
Absolutely.
But I really think that those experiences are meant to shape you as a person, and then you're supposed to pull from them as a dancer too. So you might not be like the principal, and you might not be doing the principal role, but you're feeling the emotion in the same way, or in your own way. I think sometimes when I'm on stage, I feel everything just like so much more intensified, and I can almost imagine what it would be like to take on a role like that, and what it would mean to me. I'm always trying to connect things back to like, what does that mean for me personally?
Absolutely.
So it's just being self-aware and thinking about the type of person you are, and then connecting that to dance. And everyone has an outlet where they can express themselves, even if it's just at home right now. Like, what a great time to explore who you are as a dancer.
Absolutely. And I think it's important as well. Like, this is something that I love to emphasize as well. You know, someone once asked, a couple episodes back, what are your thoughts on having strengths and weaknesses as a dancer? And I want to tie this into everything you just said, because my personal mindset is we don't have weaknesses. We have skill sets that we would like to improve upon. Because I think that when you use the word weakness, it diminishes your capability, and it diminishes all the work that you've done so far. Because in order to be in a professional company, let's say, or even in a training academy, with a very well-known or well-renowned school, that takes so much work. That takes so much strength, number one, to be able to get there.
And can I just add?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Something that I think that is really important that you're talking about is the power of words. The power of words. Words have so much meaning, and we need to be very, very careful with how we throw them around. Calling yourself weak or pointing, I mean, obviously, like, there's things that we want to improve on, but don't latch onto that definition as something that you are, because you're so right. Like, we all have things we want to improve upon, but when you say like, oh, these are all my weaknesses, and the connotation attached to that is like, oh, like you're
putting yourself down.
I'm really not that great. you're putting yourself down
Yeah.
when you have so many great things to offer. And it's so hard for us to admit the things that we're good at because we're perfectionists. We want to just keep
Yeah.
improving. So I, I just wanted to add that I think
No,
the way we talk to is super important.
it's so true, and thank you for pointing that out. You know, it is something that it's a part of our career. I mean, it's slightly crazy to the normal public when you look at what we do, because when we're not on stage, we are in a studio in front of mirrors all day long and subjecting ourselves to the critique of others all day long, hoping
Mm-hmm.
for a result that maybe we might not even get to at some point of our career, searching for that perfection, you know? So we're already so critical, and so we set these expectations on ourselves at such a high level. And I think it's important, especially for young students, to realize while the pursuit of excellence is an amazing thing to be inspired for, it's also important to realize that your uniqueness, your own individual qualities are what help you. You know, circling back to this question, those are all part of, you know, as you go on this path of becoming who you are as a person, as an artist, and use those uniquenesses or unique qualities to identify, you know, the dancer you want to be. It's an amazing process, and it's not something that just happens overnight. You know, this takes years, this takes time, and one of it, actually, this is something that Sage, probably you've heard this from Ariel at some point. One of our teachers, Ariel Serrano, wonderful Cuban instructor, he always used to equate ballet to cooking and like food, and he would say, yeah, of course, I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. You could put things in the microwave for a couple minutes and it comes out and it's okay, it's not bad. But
Yeah.
if you take the time to be a slave in the kitchen all day long and just work for hours on the same thing and watch it be in the oven for hours and take it out, it's this homegrown, amazing, delicious, rewarding whatever, you know? And I always used to laugh. I never used to get it. He's such a foodie. I love you, Mr. Ariel. But no, it's so true. Like the time and effort that you put in, you know, what you put into it, what you invest into it, and all of those ingredients, the tools that you use throughout the journey, it's important to realize that it's not going to be overnight. It's still
Yeah.
not overnight for us when you're a professional even.
My grandpa has a very good piece of advice that he told me a while back. He said, real change is slow and undramatic.
Exactly.
And I just think that is brilliant, because we want, you know, instant results and everything instant, and our society is so like we consume, we want everything like to be digestible, and our attention
That
spans
instant
are
gratification.
short, and we want everything instantly. But the real change, the stuff that sticks, the stuff that lasts the test of time, is slow and undramatic. And you'll look back maybe in a couple of years and be like, wow, I really saw, I see the change now, but I didn't see it when I was in the middle of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So. And I mean, I want to tie that into the next kind of topic. Obviously, this all kind of relates to mental health in some capacity and mental well-being, which I think is a topic that is very commonplace, looked over, not just in the ballet world, in the world in general.
I love that you want to talk about this.
I mean, it is so important, because I'm just going to use it again in an example that it comes across in our own careers. You know, it's amazing how easy it is for us to talk to our colleagues or someone, a friend, like, yeah, my knee is busted today, or I really can't do petit allegro because I've got this thing going with my ankle. You know, it's easy for us to identify the physical ailments because we deal with those in our career. But it's unbelievable to me how difficult it is for people to talk about what's going on up here. And again, I get it. Like, it's mental things are very personal. It puts us at a place of vulnerability. It puts us in a place of being not necessarily secure or comfortable to talk about those things as well, and those experiences perhaps, you know. And so, you know, why do you think that's a big thing? You know, why do you think it's something that people shy away from? And, you know, I'm someone who definitely, I've lived through experiences, you've lived through experiences, you know, it's necessary to talk about these things because they are real and they do
Absolutely.
happen in a multitude of ways.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's so difficult to talk about those, sensitive subjects?
Well, because if we keep things hidden, then we don't have to deal with them. The moment that we bring something into the light, you're forced to deal with it. And I think that it comes from some some emotions that I'm just going to name. I think a lot of the times we feel shame with our emotional state. We feel confusion and we feel guilty for feeling those things. Sometimes we feel like we're the only ones who experience,
Yeah,
like a really negative time in our lives, or something just affects you differently than other people. But I think the truth is that we all go through these periods where we don't feel the best about ourselves, these insecurities that all of us have. We all have insecurities. We all have things that we are dealing with within ourselves and about ourselves. And it's really hard to talk about insecurities. It's hard to really be honest about what you're struggling with. And I don't think that there's enough support, and I think that sometimes people don't know how to have this type of dialogue,
for
because if
sure.
someone comes to you with something that they're struggling with, oftentimes we don't even know how to respond. When, you know sometimes just being there for someone, and you don't have to have a response, you don't have to have an answer, we don't have to have all the answers, but what we do owe to ourselves and to others is honesty. And that goes such a long way. Like,
Absolutely.
there's so many things that we can bottle up, especially in this career, but I think this is for everyone in life in general, that, when you go through something, it has effects on you. It has effects on your personality. It has effects on how you will then deal with future scenarios.
For sure.
You're gonna go back to that moment and that hurt and that pain. And unless we truly find healing for those things that we go through, we're never going to be able to fully move on. And it's my perspective and my opinion that if you have gone through something, if you are feeling hurt, if you are feeling depressed, if you are feeling anxious, that finding the root of where those things come from is invaluable. It's so valuable to your future and to your mental health, because if you don't, then there's things called triggers, and you can be triggered by a smell, by a sight, by a conversation, by a certain word, and it'll take you right back to that place of
Absolutely,
hurt.
yeah.
There's just so many psychological elements to these things that we go through, and they're not properly explained. We're just kind of told, like, oh, talk to a therapist, or like, it'll all be okay, or don't bottle it in. But those are just kind of like band-aids, I feel like, on top of things that really should be addressed in healing. And people, I want everyone to find healing for themselves, because on some level, even if it's not an extreme diagnosis or an extreme scenario,
Yeah.
those are emotions we all feel, and we all deserve healing. We all deserve to feel content and to kind of find ways where we can productively deal with our insecurities.
Absolutely. No, I think that's beautifully said. And I want to highlight as well, I think that there's often a stigma or a stereotype about mental health, that it makes you weak to, and again, using this word very, very sensitively, but there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of, for the uninformed or the people who maybe have ill-advised opinions, there's often a lot of negative associations with saying that I'm going to get counseling or I'm going to talk to someone and seek help or seek advice.
To anyone
Because
listening, therapy is great.
I
It's
mean,
awesome.
I've personally, in my career and in my life, I've had an experience where I did go to counseling almost for 2 years. And it doesn't make you any less of a person. It doesn't make you any less of a
No,
dancer. And
it
if
makes you a
anything,
stronger person,
I agree. And
because
if anything,
speaking it out for yourself,
yeah,
that's beautiful.
it takes strength to identify as well that this is an area that I need to improve on, but the tools I have aren't working. It's not building something, it's not building that result for me. So, because I've got a lot of people writing in, yeah, I've felt this way for so long, but I'm afraid of being reprimanded. I'm afraid of being looked at differently and having the public eye or my colleagues and my friends look at whatever situation I'm going through and being judgmental about it. Obviously it is delicate. It is sensitive. I had a very interesting conversation with a friend just the other day about how, oftentimes people are very private and they don't feel comfortable or don't want to share some of these intimate parts of their lives. But we are all human, and at some point in our life, again, it's going to present itself in a different way, but we're all going to experience the amazing, wonderful highs and some of those devastating lows, because it's part of life. It happens. And I think it's more, or it should be more normalized to talk about it, because it happens to all of us the same way that we all go through puberty and grow up. It's awkward and no one likes dealing with it, but we all do it and we all make it out okay.
How do we bond as humans?
Exactly.
We bond through connectivity. We bond through shared experiences. And I think more often than not, the stories that we're afraid to tell are the stories that people need to hear. Because
I love that, yeah.
They're the things that make us not feel so alone. They're the things that make us not feel like we're the only ones. And that type of courage, it does take courage. It does take bravery. And, that person that you were just talking about, yeah, being afraid of what other people will think, that judgment is paralyzing.
Yeah,
no one
sure.
wants to feel like they're being judged or like someone's going to think of them differently because of something they go through. But
definitely.
I think that fear is the only thing that is holding you back, because if you share those things, I think more often than not, you're going to find deeper connections, deeper community, more help, more love and compassion, because we do really connect through our shared experiences. And fear is the opposite to me of love. And when we live our lives out of fear rather than love, then we're a slave to it. And we're constantly, paralyzed by that. And it's,
yeah.
I completely understand that perspective, and I've been there, and I have been so afraid to share things and so afraid to open up about personal experiences of mine. And I'm sure you've gone through this too. And the reaction when I have opened up has always been something that I would have never expected. It's always been just people greeting me with open arms, and just like, often they come to me with similar stories.
Yeah.
People are like, you know what, I've been through that too, and I know how you feel. And there's nothing like that. You bond with people in a different way.
Absolutely. I mean, I love that. And I just on my computer, through my website, this is where I'm getting all this. And then of course on here, I'm loving seeing all these amazing comments coming through. I mean, you guys are fantastic. Yeah. This is so positive and so exciting to see. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who's watching and being part of that so far. But back to the main discussion topic too, I want to touch a little bit on stereotypes and stigmas within the ballet world. Obviously it's a very competitive art form. Not just, in the sense that, there's competitions and, there's this and that, but competitive because it's a very select few people who go all the way through their training into a company and are able to continue to progress and dance and do things that they've been dreaming about doing their whole lives. So what are your opinions? What are your thoughts? What are your feelings on, keeping a healthy mentality, having, I don't want to say extreme pressure, but it can feel like, a good majority of the pressures that we face in our lives happen at the tender ages when we are a pre-professional student, and also at the beginning of our professional careers in the first 2-3 years of joining a company. So what are your thoughts, and what advice or wisdom can you share, experiences, can you talk on that?
Well, people love stereotypes because people love labels. People love to just assign someone a label because, to me, it's a form of laziness. It's just you saying, oh, I have a good idea of who that person is. I don't need to get to know them better. And it's almost like you put a box around someone so that you don't have to explore it any further.
Sure.
Where I think that that is a huge problem within the industry and with, you know, society, culture in general, is stereotyping, because when you assign someone a label like that, you are eliminating the possibility of them surprising you or being so different than you imagine. So I think, at least in ballet, you know, assigning stereotypes of like, I mean, there's silly ones that we all, you know, assign, like, oh, the jumper and the turner and the bun head and the like workaholic, and she's always here early, and like all of those kind of like silly ones. But there's so much more to that. Did you know, like, that person's a bunhead because they had a really serious injury, and, you know, they've worked so hard to come back from that, and they love ballet so much. I think that's beautiful. We shouldn't shame that. We should celebrate that.
Yeah.
And the person who gets there early, that's just another form of them just working super hard. And yeah, that person is great at jumping, but they're also great at so many other things. And like, people can be dichotomies. People can be a whole bunch of things that we should give them the opportunity to be. And
yeah,
like, don't assign a label to someone. Let them surprise you.
absolutely.
And
Yeah, I think it's important as well, like labeling yourself as a dancer. That's something that people have been writing in recently. You know, you get, I don't want to say, I mean, it's true that I think that it's not as common as it has been in past times, but it's still something that happens, is being typecasted. You know, obviously, I will be the first one to admit that I am, you know, just my own personality. I am not this like wild, fiery flames of Paris, launch me out of a cannon type, you know. I'm someone who's a bit more of a demure, romantic, flowy, that kind of a dancer. And of course, like, I'm aware of that. And so through my training years, I've worked to build up the more like, okay, sassy key tree type, you know, like, and it's great. It's part of building yourself as a well-rounded artist. But oftentimes, you know, I was never given those opportunities to move fast or move in a way that was not necessarily something that was my strength or something that I was most comfortable doing. And it's very easy to label ourselves as like, I'm this kind of a dancer or I'm that kind of a dancer, and you limit yourself to what you can be doing. So what are your thoughts on that as well?
I'm gonna tell you a story, because I feel like, well, we're kind of similar in this way, where we're very lyrical, very, you know, romantic and flowy and stuff. And that's always been me. I've always been typecasted as like, oh, adagio, like that should be your thing. And like anything slow and flowy, like that should be your thing. And when I was in BB2, I wanted to be in the company so bad. I wanted to be in the corps so badly. And you have one performance in BB2 where like the director comes, and that's like, everything's on the line for that performance. And I was given Paris to do that. And oh my gosh, Allie, it was such a challenge, because I was like, you know what, I have to be this fiery, sassy person. And I realized, like, hey, that's a part of me that, you know, I can totally grow into, and there's room to grow. And like, it was just such a fun experience to try and push myself in that way. And yeah, it just was so ironic to me that that was like the most important performance. And of course I was given something out of my comfort zone, but that's the whole point, right? Is to get out of your comfort zone.
It is, you know, it's important to realize too, throughout our career, I mean, it's interesting to me, and this is something that I've just personally experienced. And someone just wrote in a question about auditioning as well, so this ties right into what I was going to say. It's amazing how people can go to auditions and just be absolutely petrified with fear, or performing on stage and being just overcome with nerves and anxiety. And again, I totally get it. Everyone's different, and it's not me wanting to be, you know, or criticizing about that, but it's interesting to me how it can be so frightening and so terrifying for people to put themselves in auditions and on stage. Yet the whole point of our career is to be vulnerable and put yourself out there. So I don't know. The psychology on that one for me, I could speak about it for hours. Because yeah, of course, I've felt the nerves, I felt the pressure. You want to do well, you want to look good, and you want to represent whatever school or company, or just represent yourself well. You know, it's a totally
Yeah.
normal thing to feel. But I think people internalize it, and especially that, you know, I think this is maybe coming from a student. I get so nervous when I'm auditioning. What do I do? You know, I think the whole point is the reason why they do these auditions and competitions and performances. They want to see how you perform under pressure, because
Right.
our career has a lot of pressure involved in it as well. And I think it's important to realize that you don't need to look at it as something as so high stakes, you know,
Hmm.
because being in a class, we do that every day. The only difference about being in an audition class
Exactly.
is that you have one extra person in your audience. That's just the way I
Hmm.
see it. And that for me
Yeah.
did me wonders as a 15, 16-year-old kid who was going all over auditioning here, there, everywhere. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, Sage, what are your thoughts on that as well? You know, it's interesting because we do put ourselves out there in a very vulnerable way on stage and on screen sometimes. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm not sure if this is the most direct answer, but everything happens for a reason. And it is my belief that you end up where you're supposed to end up, and that if an opportunity doesn't go the way that you think it's going to, it's because that there's a better one for you. You know, a door closes, a window opens,
Sure.
that sort of mentality. I think that, yes, the nerves and the pressure are sometimes so overwhelming. And I have been there where I've been like shaking. I've been so nervous.
Yeah.
But there's so much that we can't control. We can't control what that person at the front of the room is going to think of us. We can't control what the rest of the company is going to think of us. You can't control, you know, how you feel that day. If you're, you know, slightly off your leg, or if you're, you know, you can't really control those things. Those are just circumstances that you're
Yeah.
given for that day. So you wake up, you're nervous, you have all of these circumstances, how you feel. The only thing that you can do in that moment is prepare yourself the best way possible. And how do we do that? You eat a good breakfast, you know, however your routine is, do whatever your routine
Yeah.
is that makes you feel secure, and then just go into that audition or go into that performance, like walk into those doors knowing that first of all, you're enough already.
Mm-hmm.
You've already done it. You should feel accomplished that you have already gotten this far to where you're auditioning or you're performing, and you've put in the work. So feel confident in that. And then whatever happens is just external circumstances that you cannot particularly control. Don't beat yourself up about it, and don't don't constantly question, you know, if you could have done anything differently, because you are where you're supposed to be. And
Yeah.
these opportunities, or you know, failed opportunities, are just leading you towards maybe a company or a performance that you really will shine, or you will get more opportunities as a dancer. Like I know so many people that, you know, myself included, actually, I had in my head this idea of my dream company that I always wanted to be at. And I just always was like talking about it as like, this is going to be my path.
Yeah.
And it turned out not to be my path. It turned out that, you know, I auditioned for Boston, and everything felt so right in that audition. And, you know, it was just like, I had never even considered that as an option for
For
myself.
sure.
So when I joined Boston Ballet, I was like, oh my gosh, like this truly is like the place for me. And I'm so thankful that I didn't get that opportunity that I so desperately wanted, that I killed myself over,
Mm-hmm.
because this honestly was the better place for me. And, you know, the world works in mysterious ways. So
Yeah.
you just kind of have to have a little faith in this department.
I love that. You know, and I want to touch a little bit on the topic of rejection, because you did mention, you know, there's going to be things that don't work out. It's part of our job, it's part of our life. And I'll be the first person, I'll use myself as an example. At a young age, like 15, 16, you know, the dreaming years. I mean, of course, I don't want to call it the dreaming years, because I'm still such a dreamer, like, oh, I
You're
want,
still
you know,
dreaming.
yeah. But, you know, I had someone tell me, you know, you'll never be a royal ballet dancer. That's just, you're not that type. You'll never be in a royal ballet company. You'll never
Wow.
dance in England.
Wow.
And that for me was hard because 15-year-old Allie, that was everything I ever wanted. Like that was, if you were to ask me what my biggest dream was, what my biggest goal was to be there.
Wow.
And someone told me I never would, you know, because I didn't go to the Royal Ballet School. I didn't have that upbringing and that unique technique that they teach over there. But I made it. I'm still like pinching. I'm still pinching myself, but it's life works in funny ways sometimes, and I basically, you know, what I use myself as that example because that to me was like one of the most soul crushing moments. Someone telling me that I would never achieve my biggest dream, my biggest wish in my career, but that was just one person, and while that hurt me, and while that was awful. I mean, yes, I did cry. I let it all out and had a big, you know, hugging my mom and dad, you know, oh my gosh, I'm never going to dance there. But my mom flat out looked at me and she goes, you're going to dance wherever you want to dance because the only thing
I
standing
love
in
your
front of
mom.
you is yourself. You know, again, this is the dreaming side, but the reality is, you know, obviously work had to be put in. Obviously the skill set had to be there. And obviously you had to have a director or a set of people encouraging you that, you know, this is a direction that is realistic and tangible. But
Mm-hmm.
aside from those realistic points, you know, my mom was the one who told me, not even someone in the ballet world, you know, my mom who has never taken a step of ballet in her life, flat out said, you didn't come this far to come this far. And if that means that you're going to dance your entire pre-professional career and then go to college, or love ballet, do it professionally, and then stop and do something else midway through,
Mm-hmm.
you will go as far as you want to go.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
again, like you said, the path that we take, what we think we want, what we want to go for, that changes. It's going to change every year in your life. Because if you ask 12-year-old Sage what she wanted to do, it's probably completely different than what I ask present-day Sage what she wants for herself in the future. So those things change, and it's called evolution, and we're constantly evolving as people and as for dancers. And yeah, someone just wrote, yay for moms.
Yay for
Thank
mom.
you. It
That is
is. Yay
so
for
true.
moms, because you know,
Shout out.
whether your mom was a dancer or not, I just think it's important to have that support system and to
That
have those
encouraging.
people who push you and in a healthy way remind you that whatever you're doing, in
Mm-hmm.
whatever capacity you're doing it, and again, it doesn't have to be a mom, but using moms as an example, teachers, trainers, mentors, whoever,
Mm-hmm.
having someone who's telling you that you're not done yet. You're
Yes.
still growing and you're still learning. That's something that was huge to me. And I'm sure you've had someone in your life in a very similar capacity as well.
Yeah, my mom is number one encourager, supporter in my life. And my dad also is just amazing. I have a great family support system, but something that they've really instilled in me, which I think is just such a perfect segue from your point, is that you don't have to receive everything that someone says to you. We actually don't have to receive the negativity sometimes. Like
Yeah, I
you,
like
you have
that.
a choice. When someone says something to you, you know, like let's just like, you know, you're never going to make it, or that's a silly idea, or, you know, you're really like, that's a shot in the dark because like that's really not going
Yeah.
to happen. You don't have to internalize that. You don't have to take that as your truth. You actually have the power. And my mom is like number one with this, to speak your own truth over yourself. Someone says that to you and you say, you know, I actually don't accept that as my truth. You can accept what your mom said. I'm actually capable of taking this career as far as it can go, and I've put in the work and I've come this far, and I'm not going to quit now.
Yeah.
If I listened to every person who told me no in my life, I would not be here. I would not be the person that I am
Oh,
today.
same.
So many,
Absolutely.
the amount of negativity, I wish I had like $1 for every person who told me that I wasn't going to make it as a ballet dancer, because there was a lot
Yeah.
of people who told me to.
Yeah.
And I, you know, if I listened to all of them, then I wouldn't be in this amazing place, and I wouldn't be around these amazing people, and I wouldn't have even been open to giving myself the opportunity. So
Definitely. No, I mean, it's safe to say I don't even know if I really took to heart all of the negative and the rejection and the challenges that I've faced so far, I don't think I'd be dancing. Like, to be completely transparent, like, I don't think I'd be dancing. And so it goes to show, that it happens. It's part of this life, it's part of this career, and it's not how you internalize it, it's how you process it and take that information. Because of course it's okay to be a human and cry and it hurts and not be thrilled about the news or the statement, but use it as fuel.
yeah,
Use it as that launching pad to go where you're meant to go next. So I think
exactly.
that's an incredible point of view. And there's a couple other topics that I want to talk about before we run out of time completely. So I want to dive into a few of those. This one speaks volumes to me and so many other people, and I love talking about it to all my guests. Where do you draw your strengths and your inspirations from in times where you're not feeling strong and inspired?
Wow. Wow. That's quite a question. Um, to be very, very honest and transparent with you, my strength comes from the Lord. My strength comes from God. There, people have failed me so many times in my life, but He has never failed me. And for me, having something that has never failed me, that is an endless pool and an endless resource where I can draw strength from. And I just have to be transparent about this because this is such a hard industry to survive in.
Mm-hmm.
As a human, as a dancer, there are so many things that are constantly going to break you and going to try and knock you off your feet. And you have to have a secure rock to go back to. And my family is obviously my rock. My friends, obviously my rock. I have amazing people in my life that I've gotten to know over so many years, but there's only God who has been there with me in the moments where I'm crying alone in my bedroom. Only
Yeah.
God was there in my darkest times when I didn't know if I was gonna make it out of something alive. Like, I've been in those seasons where, my life has been on the line. And those are scary times. And, a lot of people, God and religion, this is a very like tricky subject because people just think rules and regulations and stuff. But for me, it's a relationship with something that is beautiful. And, I see creation, I see nature. I'm such a nature person. Like, I'm literally like, if I was born in the 70s, like, I'd be such a hippie. But I go out to this little like mountain that I have, and I just look out at like the forest and like the water and see the trees and the birds, and I think, they don't question anything about themselves. The trees grow and the birds fly, and they're not thinking, am I good enough? Am I in the right place? Am I doing enough? They just are. They were
Mm-hmm.
created to do that. And I have to believe I was created to do this. I was created to dance. I was created for a purpose. And that gives me inspiration.
I love that, and I've shared this a couple other times on these conversation series, but one of my favorite, it's not really a quote, it's more of just a definition, but I love it and it speaks volumes to me, and it kind of relates to everything you just said about creation and all that. It's the definition of the word bloom is a beautiful process of becoming.
Hmm.
And I think it's wonderful to take a step back and allow yourself to bloom as a person, bloom as an artist, bloom and grow into everything and all that you are meant to be in whatever facets of life that looks like. So
Yeah.
I think that that's an absolutely excellent point. And regardless if where you find that strength comes from or what that rock is, who that rock is in your life, it's important to identify it because we all need that. We all do.
Yeah.
And sometimes the comfort or the trust isn't there with a parent or a friend or a family member, but you have colleagues, you have people who maybe, if they're not directly in the same room as you, oftentimes the people who I hold closest to my heart are geographically the furthest away. This is a time, especially now in the world, where
long distance friendships.
We have the beauty of using our technology. What an amazing asset it is. I think it's incredible. And so, again, I hate to move on because we could talk about so much more, but I've got 2 other topics I want to touch on before we wrap this up. The first one being social media. Not only how it pertains just in life, but I do want to hone in more on how it pertains to ballet and how it can be an amazing asset or it could be detrimental in the formative years as a student and even as a professional, because there's been a lot of messages that I've received in the past few days, like, oh gosh, do I have to have all these followers to be successful or be known? Is it important to get recognition that way? And then there's a completely other side of this conversation where people are talking about, I see this girl and her foot bends way more than mine, or this guy has a jump that's 10 times higher than mine, or this girl can wrap her leg around her neck, and it gets into this very competitive, very comparative, I think that's a better word, comparative battle almost, where I have to be able to do that in order to be this. So what are your thoughts on social media and how it pertains to development in young dancers and professionals?
Social media is beautiful and it is also bad at the same time. You really did sum it up, Allie. I mean, it's the most amazing connective tool that we have in this day and age to join with people that are so far away and across this entire earth. There's nothing like it, and I'm so thankful for this technology so that we can do things like this. And
sure.
I mean, especially in a global pandemic, can you imagine if we didn't have this technology? Like, it is so incredible that we can take classes from people, stars across the whole world.
Yeah.
Like, it's so, but in a comparative sense, as a young dancer, looking at people who can turn 8 billion times and lift their leg above their head, it does create a false sense of what reality. And that follower count at the top of everyone's page does create a false sense of what reality is. I know so many people who are Instagram famous who are really quite lonely in their personal lives. I know so many people who, can post this amazing thing of them turning, but they really struggle in some other aspects of their dance. And it just, we share the best parts of this, right? Like, we're not going to share on social media us falling out of the turn or we're not going to share those bad parts. So you have to realize that, this is such a cheesy quote, but it's so true. You're comparing like your entire life to someone's highlight reel. You can't do that. You can't, take who you are and be like, well, that person can do this, so I'm not worth anything. You have to take everything on social media with a grain of salt. And just remember that, even though someone is great at something, we should celebrate that, but we should also realize that that's a human. That's not a mythical creature who can do all things. Mm-hmm. Like, that is a person.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and it's important to realize too, like, I think so many people view it as a secondary source of validation. And so, without going too much into detail, because I do want to be able to get onto our last point here. But yeah, I mean, I love everything you said, because it can put this facade on what our career should and does look like. And it's just important to put that into perspective. So I think you said that beautifully. And then the last topic, the last question, which I'm absolutely, my heart's breaking because there's so much I want to talk to you about. But this is something I've been asking all of my guests on here so far, and I've been getting an incredible range of answers. And it's very simple. It's just, we touched on it a little bit, stereotypes and stigmas, things in the ballet world that need to be given the microphone. What is one thing that you would love to see change in our industry when we all come back to normal?
Oh, I have the answer.
Okay, let's see.
I hate that this is just like I'm like, yep, I got this. But truly, and I'm sure this might not be the case with every ballet, but something that I would love to see from my company on the return back to normal is a greater connection between the executive side and the artistic side.
I like that. Wow, that's really great.
I think that there's such a disconnect between the people who give money to the ballet, or people who support the ballet, or people who run the ballet, and the actual artists. And I think that that is partly intentional, because I think that, we've created this gap so that there is some version of protection, but the two can't exist without each other. Yeah. They're codependent. The executive side needs the artistic side to survive, and the artistic side needs the executive side to survive. But what would happen if there was an open dialogue and an open conversation between the two, where people's feelings could really be taken into consideration, and we could pioneer a better type of company, a better type of working organism, where the dancers feel fully supported and the executive side feels like they have that, like they're involved in what we're doing. They know what we're doing. I think that so many people just don't know what it takes to be a professional ballet dancer, and if that's within the actual organization, then to me, I think that is a disconnect that needs to be fixed. So personally,
I love that. That's amazingly unique.
I would love to see the industry move forward like that, because just even with like social issues within the artistic side, there's a lot of bias and things that I think could be avoided if the conversation was just a little more open.
Absolutely. What an amazing perspective that is. And genuinely, Sage, what an absolute pleasure and honor it's been to get your words of wisdom and your thoughts and your experiences on all of the topics that we covered today. And unfortunately, we are just about out of time. So with that being said, I want to thank you so, so much for being part of this series with me. And it has just been an absolute pleasure.
Allie, you're amazing. And I love talking to you, and you're so smart and intelligent, and it's been a pleasure for me too.
Well, thank you. My face is going to turn red. I got to turn this live off. All right, you guys, thank you so much for tuning into Conversations with Allieetoile and the lovely Sage Humphries. If you guys want to find out more about her, details are on her artist profile on my website, allieetoile.com. And in case you missed any part of today's episode, or you'd like to share it with a friend, it will be uploaded to my YouTube channel coming soon, so just stay tuned for details. Sage, thank you again. Stay safe, stay healthy, and as same to everyone else out there. And again, if you guys have questions, feel free to send them in, and I will do my very best to answer them for you all. I think I did it. Is that a good sign off?
Sign off.
All right. Bye, Sage. Thank you so much. Take care, you guys.